I would wonder if these energies, these tones, always exist, and whenever you play the tones, whenever you play them, or you get on the same vibrational pattern as they are, then you almost bring them into this reality, or you get to see them, you get to hear them, you get to feel them. Like they're always there. I don't think that that you're playing it and creating an entity. Maybe that it's always there, and when you play the tone, you get to experience it.
That's conceivable, but that doesn't correspond with the electrical induction theory of it.
Okay, so all that has to be created and generated?
The induction theory, Faraday, which seems to be how this stuff works, is empty space is filled with a primordial medium, which is in electrical work was referred to as the ether.
Mm-hmm.
The ether. Anyone that's interested in this subject is I presented a lecture on this last June, and there's a book also that goes with it called The Four-Quadrant Representation of Electricity. And my mind was keener on the subject then than now, so if you can get a copy of that video, I'll get into how the ether is affected by the archetypes and the formative forces. The ether is kind of at the end of the line, and the archetype is what's in the Pythagorean ratios. The archetype is what modulates space. Now, the space, the ether, is a bunch of little tubes or lines that are all kind of mashed in every which direction, and they all equalize each other out. There is no entity. But when a formative force is applied to the ether, then one set of lines will point one way, and one set of lines will point the other way, and then you'll start to get the polarization. And then this confused mass of spaghetti in a big blob made out of the ether all of a sudden forms into a physical shape, which could be you or me or a garbage can or a cloud in the sky or things that we can't see, like musical entities in the air.
Mm-hmm.
That's the basic theory. Now, I could be wrong on that, but this is the theory that I've been, using and is going to be an upcoming topic in my next presentation, because until I describe how the ether and electricity works, there's no way that I can explain to somebody how radio and Tesla's transmission and all that type of stuff works.
Yeah, well, I told you I was kind of stepping out there. I mean, I see a picture of it, but explaining it and trying to, I think it's going to have the same effects either way, because I believe that that the same principles apply, whether they were there the whole time or you're creating them or whatever. And I kind of like to tie it into, there's two different stories. One is the story of Pythagoras. It was recorded. It was said that he was coming home from a exhibit or something like that, and there was a drunk man. He was walking down the street, and the story says that the drunk man was harassing a homosexual at the time, and he didn't like him. He was riled up, trying to fight him. He was trying to kick down his door and get in his house because he wanted to do harm to him. And supposedly Pythagoras looked, and on the corner there was a man playing a flute, and the rhythm that and the notes that he was playing was real aggressive and real. It was aggressive in some of the lower tones or chords, and the story says that Pythagoras asked him to play a softer, more sweeter, upbeat melody, and whenever the man changed his melody, that the whole countenance of the man who was violent, trying to attack the other man, totally changed as soon as the music changed, and the man gathered himself and went about his way.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically the whole theory behind the church modes, which was the formalization of the Pythagoras music during the Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
There were books written on this back then, describing how one particular mode would, make people behave one way, and another particular mode would make people behave another way. And of course, that's how this stuff is used against us in the media, to get us to, eat things that we don't want to eat and do things that we don't normally want to do.
Colors, shapes, sounds, all of it. Jingles.
Oh, yeah. The ratios work the same way with colors.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, the colors in a televised media image are always very specific to what's going on. There's a whole engineering behind all this stuff that adapts from decade to decade.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
So once you put your face up to that CRT, your reality, your polarization, just like the ether, is being modulated by the color proportions.
Mm-hmm.
And you have no control over it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are more sensitive than others in that they can be cognizant of it. Other people are not aware.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm so sensitive of it. Just the color of the ground of an area that I'm living in has a profound influence on me. In some places, I just can't stay for more than a couple of hours.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. So and also I think I kind of tie that story in with me in the scriptures how King Saul had a evil spirit tormenting him, and David went up to him with the harp and began to play this music. And the only time that this evil spirit would subside was when David played his harp and played these songs or chords or whatever.
Well, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I kind of tied the two stories together. Just understanding the power of music. Not that it's just...
Well, the power of music, I think, is really expressed well in how the walls of Jericho fell down.
Exactly. I was going to ask you about that as well.
Yeah. So the thing that I came to understand or believe in my course of all this investigation, I'll make reference to the book that really reawakened me to this, because this is all stuff I did in my college years, and at RCA and all that. And later on, I became interested in different things. But I have like a book exchange thing goes on with a friend of mine, and this is what leads to my writings on the internet, which are now up to about like 1,000 pages. He brings in these books on these type of subjects, and then wants me to read them and then explain to him what's going on that he doesn't understand. So he brought me a book. And I really recommend that everybody read this book. It's called Music of the Spheres by a man named Jameson. And
that's a term that Pythagoras coined, correct?
What's that now? Well, that was the whole philosophy. I don't know who coined it, but that was the philosophy. So in going through this and I have a different way of receiving information than normal people do. I get things like in chunks and images, and I do not learn in a serial fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So in going through this book, it started to reawaken a lot of things that I had come to understand when I was actually studying this stuff in college and doing experiments in relation with RCA at the time. That there's something that has been attenuated in the human race over the millennia, and we have been told stories about the walls of Jericho coming down, and we've been told stories, through the mythology, about, people throwing seeds on the ground and skeletons dancing out of the seeds and, attacking people and all this stuff happening. Is I believe with the simple ratios and symbologies that people had back in that time, that those things are not just stories.
Mm-hmm.
But there was enough voodoo in all this that just the simple means they had of producing ratios at the right time, at the right place, and the right proportion to cause materialization and dematerialization.
Mm-hmm.
And over the millennia, particularly with the advent of the modern age, that's been erased.
Mm-hmm.
But that potential still exists.
Yes.
And in the modern day standpoint, now this is what causes a very serious complication, is then we have the weapons potential of Pythagoras. So all the guns in the world, and all the bombs in the world, and all the force in the world, theoretically, can be brought to a standstill by simple geometric proportions.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of a frightening concept.